We have presented evidence today of potentially unlawful killings. And in light of this evidence, we are calling on President Obama to immediately commit to ensuring investigations of these cases and of all other potentially unlawful killings.
Today, 2 human rights organizations presented reports documenting multiple unlawful U.S. drone killings in Pakistan and Yemen. Amnesty International conducted on-the-ground research into 9 drone strikes occurring in the North Waziristan region of Pakistan between January 2012 and August 2013. What they found was very little legal justification for these killings. Lead researcher Mustafa Qadri describes one of them.
On the 6th of July 2012, 18 male laborers, including at least one young boy, 14-year-old Saleh Khan, were killed by a US drone. In the first strike, 8 men were instantly killed while they were having their dinner after a long, difficult day in the field. As people came to assist them, to see if there were any injured, any survivors, they too were also attacked. Witnesses described to us a macabre scene of body parts and blood, panic and terror as US drones continued to hover overhead.
Now, this report comes just as the Prime Minister of Pakistan arrives in Washington, D.C. to meet with President Obama, and the timing of the release of these reports was not a coincidence.
And while we sit here in Washington, D.C., with the Prime Minister of Pakistan meeting the President of the United States, staying in a hotel very close to this building, let's not forget the people on the ground who are affected by drones and the situation more broadly.
The second report, done by Human Rights Watch, focuses on drone strikes in Yemen, investigating 6 specific strikes that the U.S. government refuses to admit even took place. And according to their research, some of these strikes were clear violations of international law.
2 of the 6 cases that we examine in my report show that the U.S. indiscriminately killed civilians. This is a clear violation of international law, even if it was not the U.S. intent. If it indiscriminately killed, it should be held responsible.
Yemen saw a flurry of drone strikes in August, which seemed to run counter to new drone policy guidelines announced by President Obama in May. It's unknown whether drone guidelines stated publicly correspond with actual guidelines that are still shrouded in secrecy.
The complete policy is classified. We don't actually know what the policy is. We have to keep in mind that during the heightened security threat in August, when U.S. embassies were closed around the world, one anonymous U.S. official did say that the policy was essentially being disregarded at that time.
It's only recently that the White House has even begun to publicly acknowledge the existence of its drone program. And both Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International were clear to state that their reports are not aimed at condemning the drone program itself, but instead condemning unlawful killings and the lack of transparency coming from the White House. They called for full disclosure of the facts behind each drone killing and the legal justification for them. They called for Congress to reassert an oversight role. They called for the families of those indiscriminately killed by drones to be compensated. And they called for independent investigations and fair trials against those responsible for unlawful drone killings, which could include the president himself. In Washington, Sam Sachs, RT.